Aloha, it's Dave Lawrence. How you doing? A big mahalo for tuning into this. I hope everything is happy and healthy in your world, and I appreciate you joining us. We got a conversation with a remarkable human being. This is a gifted woman whose music and raw passion have moved people for decades. We were fortunate to have her arrive in our lives via her emotional, epic first album in 1988, featured one of my very favorite songs of all time, Like the Way I Do. In an era that often seemed very glossy and fake, she exploded with soul, music filled with powerful emotions and songwriting. She's an advocate, a voice of inspiration, a person people around the world admire for courage and a life of valuable contributions. Her Fearless Love World Tour reaches Hawaii July 23rd at the Blaisdell Concert Hall, July 24th at the Mac in Kahului, and it is my greatest pleasure to welcome a personal hero, Melissa Etheridge. Aloha and mahalo, Melissa. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Aloha. What a pleasure.
And I'm really grateful for your time. It's nice that you're coming back here. How far back do you go with playing and visiting the islands?
Oh, well, it took a while for me to actually get over there for the first time to play, but I think that was like maybe mid-'90s. But early in the '80s, I started going over to Hawaii mostly. The Maui and just gorgeous. You know, I live in California, so that's our favorite playground to go play in is Hawaii.
And it's easy for you guys on the West Coast. I came from the East Coast, so it's a little bit more.
Well, that's a long trip, yeah.
A little harder to get here. Do you have any friends in the islands or any memorable experiences here that are worth noting? Something that you may have done that when I ask you that, it just pops into your head like, actually, I remember, or maybe you know somebody who lives here?
Well, actually, the islands was where we, on Kauai, was where the beautiful Crosbys, David and Jan Crosby, where we all agreed that David would donate and be the father of my children. So that happened in Hawaii, a very magical place, and you know the whole Honolulu Bay and that whole area is just so magical, and every moonrise, every sunset is completely memorable in Hawaii.
What a special thing. So you guys were all there in Honolulu together when you made that decision?
Yes, absolutely.
What a cool thing. Great to be part of that. Very good to be part of that. Your website, 4th Street Feeling. There's a cool clip on your website, extraction from your radio show. It explains the naming of your new album. Tell us a little bit about what we might hear from that record and what's drawing inspiration from you these days.
Oh, I am so excited about the new album. I just finished it. The mixes are all done. I'm just Monday turning it in to my record company. I'm very, very excited. It's Melissa post 50, you know. It's me doing the best of what I do. Rocking, writing, singing, playing. I play all the guitars. I finally convinced myself that I'm a good guitar player and that I can actually stand up and hold all of the guitar playing duties. I play more electric. The writing, after 40 years, I've finally become a better songwriter. I've just gotten better, and that makes me very exciting. It makes me very excited, and it also it's about playing these songs live. I realize after all this time that the albums come and go and that people hold on to them, but the songs live on stage. So I wanted to make sure that the songs that I wrote for the album and recorded, I could put up on stage and that they could grow and become, the experiences that people come to see me play for.
Are the things that are getting you, because I've been reading a little bit about the way that emotions, it's like the raw emotion, the inspiration, that's where it starts for you, which you sort of say in that clip there, is what are the things, or can you give me a topic or two that have inspired you recently, or let us in on one of the songs maybe that you're really most proud of, and maybe an experience that led to it?
Oh, well, the title track, 4th Street Feeling, it was the very last song that I wrote for the album. It was written the day before I recorded it. Well, actually, the day that I recorded it, I was finishing it. And I usually, bring a song all worked up and all done. And this one just popped out. And it was, when you have 4 children, and you're in the middle of your life, and there's things that can happen, and you can start getting all swirly, and you can think that maybe, if I could just run away. If I could just get back to remember when everything I owned I could put in my car, and that's the feeling is when everything I had I could fit into my Chevrolet is one of the lines. Take me back to that 4th Street feeling. Oh, back long time. It even talks about 8 tracks. Listening to an 8-track. So it's a nostalgic song. And one definitely from my heart.
Do you have to, when you're writing stuff, because I'm so lucky to talk to a lot of people who write songs that all of us love. I'm sure a lot of people have written songs that you treasure too. When it comes to the writing process, is it something that, like, I was talking with Smokey Robinson the other day, for example, and that's what I'm thinking of. And he was telling me how, he was like, I could be on the bus, I could be heading to the show, something will pop in my head. It happens all the time. I'm not one of those guys who has to go away to make it happen. And I wonder, when you think of this new record and the way you're describing it with that passion and these experiences, is it something that you do when you're alone? Is there any particular time that the writing happens?
Well, there's 2 different parts to it. One is the inspiration and one is the actual construction of the song. Now, the inspiration, once you open yourself up to it, once you say, okay, I'm ready, let the thought, let the excitement and the inspiration, let the spirit, let me be in this spirit, the inspiration of creating. And then I can look out on the world with eyes that think, oh, look at that, that's beautiful. And that can move something inside me. Or listen to someone says a certain phrase, and I think, oh, that moves something in me. And then I start gathering these, memories. Oh, I want to write about that memory. Or, oh, I need to work this emotion out. I'm angry, or I'm confused or sad, or I want this, or I desire this. These are all the Post-it notes that then I put inside, so that when I have the time to construct it, when I can sit down and say, okay, now I'm alone, now I'm in this room, now let's pull all these Post-it notes out about inspiration, then I can construct it and write it.
I dig that. So it's like half and half, new things that are occurring to you, sort of, but also kind of like the title of the record. It's there's a bit of nostalgia too, memories, things that are important, that are like lurking in your head. You're like, maybe I could write about that.
Yes, exactly.
That's it. I dig it. I dig that for sure.
Cool.
In this radio racket, we usually don't give plugs to other radio ventures, but you're very special to me, and I wouldn't mind it if it's okay with you, if you would share a little bit of what got you into doing this radio show that you have. You sound so good on the air. You have such a great voice, whether you're talking, whether you're singing. It's so distinctive. It's like you start talking, and I know it's you. And I just, if you could, just tell us a little bit about the program for folks, most of whom have probably never heard it, and how it fits into your life's routine.
Well, I've always, of course, loved the radio. That's what brought music to my life when I was a child. In the 60s and 70s, we had one radio station in Kansas where I grew up, and it was WHB. And on that station, you had all different kinds of music. You could hear Tammy Wynette next to Marvin Gaye, and then they'd play Led Zeppelin, all on one radio station. And then, of course, in the 70s, it branched out into FM. But I loved sitting, listening to the DJ talk about the songs, bringing the information in. So I have always had a love of radio, and even when I came to Los Angeles to get my break, there was a moment where I actually thought that I would go study at the Columbia, School of Broadcasting. I just loved radio. And so when the opportunity came, when I saw that actually radio was sort of branching out into more when the opportunity came that I could step up and say, hey, I would like to do this, then I put together a radio show that is syndicated, and it's on in about 30 markets right now. It's my little side project that I love, but I get to put my love of music in it. I get to tell the stories that I know of, either personally how I've met these musicians, or how their music has influenced me, or how I think that the new music that's coming out, and the excitement. So I talk a lot about music, talk a lot about life and family, and what's going on in the world. And I love it. It's a connection. It's sort of a funny one-way connection, but I have such a good time with it.
Right, I get the one-way, meaning like the thing isn't live; it's on tape when it gets distributed, right?
I'm sorry, could you say that again?
Sure. When the show actually goes out, when you say it's kind of one way, is it that the show is not live, right? People can't call in when it's on, right?
Yeah, I mean, we do take calls. We do have a voicemail that you can call into, and then, we might contact you and have you on. But it's not live, and that's too bad, because I would really love to be able to, be in the moment with someone live.
Yeah, I can hear it when I heard the little chunk of you talking at your site. Cool. You just sound like you like you dug the companionship that radio offers, like you relate to that.
Yes.
Would it be okay with you if we talked a little bit about Like the Way I Do?
Yeah. Absolutely.
It had such an organic, non-sequencer-driven sound. It just cracked open the garbage of that era. And there was a lot of great music, but there was just so much junk, and music had gotten glossy, and guys were wearing hairspray and crazy, stupid outfits. I was like into the Dead and catching up with my parents' music then, and I didn't really relate to all that stuff. I was like, well, how can men dress that way, And it'd be one thing if you were Kiss wearing the full-blown makeup and everything, but why on earth would guys have that other, and just the sound. And you came along, and it just kind of changed everything. And your voice in that tune, you don't need a guitar solo in that song, because you are the solo. Like, the emotion that gets delivered in that vocal track climaxes like the best guitar solo ever. And I'm just so curious, where did it come from?
Well, thank you, first off. That's such an amazing compliment. And the song came from when I was still playing in the bars in the mid-'80s. And I was just writing, and I'd been working on record deals, and things were happening, but wasn't quite there. Had a relationship that, we weren't monogamous, and so I really couldn't get sad about it. I could only say, hey, well, he doesn't love me like the way I do, and that sort of youthful energy, is subject about the song. Yet it didn't have a guitar solo, because it was just me on the 12-string playing the guitar, and I was able to go into the studio with a couple musicians and record my first record, and we held the music. We didn't change what they had seen in the club, that it was still a very solo-oriented album, so that raw emotion really comes through. And you're right, at the time it was very hard for me to get signed, because I wasn't a guy with hairspray and makeup. I was barely a girl with hairspray and makeup. So, but fortunately then we went into more of the 90s music, and I definitely fit more in there. And it was a lovely experience, and I'm glad you like that song, because I still do it live almost every single show, and it is the highlight of the show. It is one of my favorite live songs I've ever written, ever, period.
It sounds so live. And perhaps that, that's, I guess, the question, because I would drive around and I would hear it. I was in high school. I was a senior in high school, and that thing would come on, and it was just like nothing on the radio, man. I mean, it was like so soulful, so explosive, that sense of desperation in it. How many takes did it take to do, and how live is that song, the studio version?
It was probably about 1 or 2 takes to get the track, and then about 1 or 2 live, because you do the track, and then I go back and sing to it, because I have to, because the guitar, technical reasons, but so I went back and sang on it, and that whole track that you hear is 1 take of me singing.
Blistering, Melissa.
Thank you.
I mean, I've been waiting 23 years, I guess, to tell you that. So... Heavy stuff. Was that intensity goaded out of you by others helping craft the album? Was there anyone who said, no, go and hit it harder, or did you just did that on your own?
No, that's what I did back then. I actually remember Chris Blackwell, the famous Chris Blackwell. He signed me. He brought Bob Marley to the world, U2. I mean, he's
heavy
guy.
Heavy dude.
Heavy dude. I finally played the whole album for him, and he said, well, not sure about that, Like the Way I Do. I mean, you're just kind of screaming. And I said, yeah, let's put it on the album. He's like, all right. So he'll be the first. He comes up to me now and says, well, what do I know? I didn't think Like the Way I Do should have gone on the first album. So
Comedy. Yes. On the note, you say screaming, and There's a couple personal questions, and you don't have to answer them if you don't want it, and they're not that personal, but when you think of your life, are you generally, and it can be your life today, it doesn't have to be the life back then, but are you generally a happy person, or do you ever struggle with depression or moments of darkness in your life?
Well, I believe that life is about balance, and you cannot just have, say, I'm just happy and that's it, because that's not what this life is about. This life is about contrast. The reason you can understand and see the happiness is because you also understand the darkness and allow it to change your life and be in your life so that you choose the happiness. I think having gone through breast cancer 8 years ago, and now I'm completely cancer-free and very happy and healthy, having gone through that, I understand the darkness more. I'm not so afraid of the darkness. I welcome it by understanding that this will bring change and will actually lift my life up and make it a better experience.
Are there lessons you can share with us about surviving that?
Yeah. It's about you. Your health is about you. It's not, things don't happen to us that, this has always been in my family, so I'm going to, go down or I got cancer. It just happened to me. Degenerative diseases are about our body and how we hold our spirit and ourselves in our body. And it again, is about that balance. And if we think we can eat food that contains nothing, that is dead and is just sugar and acid, then that's what our bodies will be filled with. And they're not. It's like putting sugar in a car; it's not going to go for very long. So that is the major important thing in my life, is about balance. Is finding the place where I have enough, alkaline foods in myself, that I eat fresh foods from the earth, that I have experiences that are not all stressful, that I have the joy and the happiness, and then I can look out with hope into the world. Those are the things that keep me alive and well.
And I hear there is, like, I'm hearing a theme of you changed your diet dramatically as a result of this. Is eating like something that, like, you really have changed the food that you consume?
Absolutely. And it's been an 8-year lesson, and I'm still learning. I think the most important thing for us to do as a society is to find our new baseline. And I think that most of us haven't even felt what it's like to have a healthy body. That it wasn't until I was forced to be completely off of everything. The chemotherapy made it to where my body was so acidic. I had to only eat something good, or it would be so painful, like it would kill me. So it forced me to have a new baseline of health. And now I know when I put too much acidic foods and stressful behaviors on, I can feel it. My system, I instantly know. And when you can connect with your body that way, then your body can help you, and you can see the signs.
Yeah, you're kind of talking to it. It's talking to you, sort of.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of do. And sort of on that note of the changes that may have occurred in your life, and not so much necessarily as a result of being the incredible survivor that you are, but in general, are you more of an introvert or an extrovert when it comes to your personal time?
I'm not my personal time, I'm not out there with a whole bunch of people, but I have an amazing circle of friends and family that I'm very extroverted in that group. I wouldn't call myself an introvert. I don't like to spend a lot of time alone. I do, because a little time alone is good, but I'm not like, I need to get away from everybody. I have a wonderful partner. I have my beautiful family that I choose to be with and want to be with.
I'm going to wrap it up with you with this quote that you did, and it comes from the Wikipedia entry about you. So I'm hoping that it's accurate, but it was touching, and it said, Etheridge supported Barack Obama's decision to have Pastor Rick Warren speak at his 2009 presidential inauguration, believing that he can sponsor dialogue to bridge the gap between gay and straight Christians. She stated in her column at the Huffington Post that, sure, there are plenty of hateful people who will always hold on to their bigotry like a child to a blanket, but there are also good people out there, Christian and otherwise, that are beginning to listen. That's heavy stuff.
Well, I do believe that. I believe that people are good. That their basic intention is for good. I know that there's a lot of fears out there that cause us to react in, harmful ways to ourselves and to others. But I believe that everybody's good.
It's a wonderful statement, and it has such far-reaching stuff for any kind of bigotry. Has way beyond anything to do with homophobia. It just has to do with bigotry in general, and the whole idea of reaching out to try to cross the chasm. And because it's almost like they say in war, because we're here in a real state that has a lot of military, and I have a lot of soldier friends, and they tell me, if you get to know the people on the other side real well, suddenly it's hard to have them as your enemy because you realize how much you have in common.
That's right, but that's the only thing that's going to bring us all together.
And that's the vibe I got from that. Melissa, I leave it with this because I'm respectful of the time, and I'm sorry I've taken a little bit too much compared to what they said. But whenever possible, I try hard to bring my listeners follow-up in-person interviews when the visiting artists that we feature on All Things Considered, which I'm grateful to host here in Hawaii, when they actually get here, I try to follow it up with them if they're willing. And I just wanted to ask, would you be willing to either drop by our acoustic performance space for a short interview, or would you let me come to the venue hotel, wherever convenient, just to record a brief follow-up interview with you when you're here?
Yeah, why don't you check with Marcel and see if I have the time? Then that would sound like a wonderful thing.
Emily is who I deal with. Is that she?
Oh, Emily, perfect. That's Pierre. Yeah.
Okay.
That's it.
I'll reach out to him. No pressure. If you can do it, you can. I understand you're on a tight schedule. I hope this was okay today, Melissa.
It was wonderful. Thank you so much.